Redneck Garage. Today, working on the TJ again. Like I said previously, this TJ is a new purchase, and we really haven't gone through it a whole lot. What I did notice when I bought it though, each wheel has a splined lug lock that I don't have the key for. It was nowhere to be found inside the Jeep. We looked all over. So I did a little research on how to get these spline lug nut locks off without the key, and most of the people said you got to pound the socket on it and pull it off that way. They said use a 19 or a 17 millimeter socket. They said a 12-point thin wall socket is probably the best to use. 12 points seem to grab on the splines of the lug nut. I'd love to heat it up, but I'm concerned that this plastic center cap right here will deteriorate from the radiant heat. I think I got enough space in between the aluminum wheel and the lug nut to heat it up, but I don't want to damage the plastic center cap, so I'm going to try not to heat it. I did spray it with some PB Blaster last week in preparation to hopefully loosen up any rust or grime that's in there. So I'm going to get some sockets together, a hammer, and see if I can beat a socket on. And we'll see if this works. They made it look pretty easy on some of the YouTube videos that I watched. I don't think it's that easy. I haven't tried yet, so I didn't set myself up for success. I'm probably setting myself up for disaster, but I'll get some tools together and we'll see. Alright, what I did was I got a variety of sockets together. I also have one of these, which is a impact, manual impact. I believe it's a Craftsman. It's marked Craftsman. Somebody else makes it, that's for sure. But it's a nice heavy tool, and it's pretty convenient when you're trying to get out rusty bolts or rusty screws even. It's got a 1/2-inch drive socket head on it, so you can put 1/2-inch drive sockets. It also has a little adapter that goes on it that you can put bits into it. But it works pretty good. It'll either tighten or loosen with each hammer blow. This might actually come in handy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to see what sockets, what 12-point sockets actually fit on it. This one's too big. This is the 19. Got here the 17. 17 seems like it's going to be way too small. I guess an 18 would work perfect. I don't have a deep 18. Let's try some of these Spline Socket set. This is a cheap, made in Taiwan from Harbor Freight Spline Socket set. It's got an 11/16, and it's got a 3/4. Check the 3/4. See if I can get this even over here. No, 3/4 is too big. And of course the 7/16 is too small. And to be honest, I think if I pound this on, these are really thin spline socket. You know what, let me try one of these. What the heck? Let's see if I can pound one of these on. This is a 7/16 spline socket. A Harbor Freight cheapo. Doesn't seem to go on there. This is just a little too small. Alright. Let me go back to the 17 millimeter and see what that does. Well, that feels like it's on there. Put in this how this works is you turn it the direction you want it to go, so you turn it counterclockwise and you give it a whack, and every time you whack it, it loosens back up again. Turn it counterclockwise, give it a whack and it turns. Not turning. Well, the socket must be on there pretty good because the marks on the extension are showing that it's not turning. So the socket's not slipping. Of course they say, oh, there it goes, turning now. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. Alright, the lug nut's turning out, but I want to be able to get it out of the socket, so I'm just trying to loosen it up a little. So that it's not hard to get out of the socket once I pull it all the way out. Nice. Knock it off all the way. Did I crack the socket? No, socket looks good. I didn't crack it. Wow, got it off. Take a look at the socket. You can see it just cut into the splines on that socket, grabbed it enough for me to loosen it up, but I'm a little concerned that if it was on any tighter, it would have been real tough to get off. I guess that it actually looks like the penetrating oil made it all the way through and loosened it up a little, but I'm real happy with that. That was a 17mm socket. This is a 1/2 by 20 lug nut, so I guess that's a, what, a 3/4 on a 1/2 by 20? But it came out pretty good. Nice and easy. There you go. I'm going to do the other 4, and then we got a little bit more to do on the TJ. Alright, well, I got them all off. You know, the first one that I did, that I filmed on camera, came off a lot easier than the remaining ones. As luck may have it. But they all came off. They required just a little bit more pounding them on, and using that impact tool didn't really help. I had to really pound it on good, and then used a breaker bar to break them loose. The impact, I guess the impact driver has its limits, and they were too tight for the impact driver. But they all came off. It was just a lot of effort, a lot of swinging that mallet. Oh well, they're off. I'm happy. Now if we get a flat or have to take a tire off, we can get it off without a problem. I'll have to run over to the parts store or check my lug nut coffee can and see if I have a couple of 1/2 by 20 lug nuts that I could throw in there. But it worked out pretty good. The only suggestion that I could make is to probably not to pound on the extension the way I pounded on it. I mean, I used a big, you saw the face of the mallet was pretty big, but I really boogered up my extension. If you can see it there. Not that it's unusable, but it takes a little bit of effort to get the tools in. They go in pretty good, but getting them out is a little tougher. I guess I'll have to clean that up with a Dremel tool. It's just knurled over just a little bit on the inside edges. Probably a little Dremel tool, and I can clean that up. What I would do in the future is when I'm pounding it on, instead of hitting the back of the extension, put this in it and use this as my hitting point and drive it in and seat that socket in with this tool on it. Or if you have a cheap throwaway socket that you could put in here, or something that you could put into this so that you don't screw that up, or a cheap extension instead of using a good one. But a cheap one might actually break. I mean, you're hitting it pretty hard, so you need a decent thing. I was happy that I didn't break the deep socket. I thought for sure that this would be the first thing to break. Especially, you know, the deep ones, they're not as strong. and you get a crack down the side pretty easily. I didn't use an impact socket because they're just too thick a wall to fit into that opening. I would guess if you had steel wheels where the lug nuts are completely exposed around the outside, you could use a impact socket and drive that over, and you wouldn't have the risk of cracking the socket the way I had that risk. But it didn't crack. I was pretty surprised. And I'm happy that it didn't crack. So I'll clean up these tools, and we got one more little thing to do to the TJ today. I'm kind of running in and out of the house all day, little bits and pieces. So we got one more quick thing to do to the TJ, and that's going to be putting the factory side steps back on it. I told you in a previous video that we pirated a lot of parts off of this TJ over the last 3-4 weeks that I've owned it, in an effort to get my daughter's TJ up and on the road so that she can go down to school, which she left last week. One of the things that we took off of this TJ were the factory side steps. My daughter's Jeep has around a 4-inch lift in it. Could be a little more than 4 inches, and we were all having a tough time climbing into that thing. So just because we were running short on time, and shipping sometimes takes a little longer than you expect, and there was nothing available locally on Craigslist or Craigslist, but Craigslist is for the parts. Craigslist, I think it's dildos on Craigslist. But Craigslist I was using, and nobody had any of the factory running boards at a decent price. So I just took them off of here. My wife yelled at me because I took them, but took a couple other parts that she didn't notice yet. So I ordered a set on eBay, got a pretty decent price on a set. They came in today. We'll throw those in, and we'll also show you how to put them in on a Jeep that might not have had them originally, which is what we do with my daughter's TJ. So I'll be able to describe that pretty well. Really. That's it. Let me have some more coffee and pull out those side steps. Well, I got the steps in today. I hope these are the steps. They better be the steps. We'll cut them open and we'll see. There was 2 sets of steps that I was looking at on eBay, both around the same price. One of them, the bottoms were a little cleaner. I don't remember which ones I got, but by opening the box I realized it was the ones with a little bit of rust and a little dirty. And these are definitely them. Packaged them up real nice though. Alright. So here are the factory side steps. I believe there's a difference on these with 97 to 2000 and then 2001 to 2006. They're all TJs, but at 2001 I believe the change was the mounting. The holes weren't in the same location, and they had like a little hook tab so that you could put them in and hook them and then tighten them in. These just bolt right through with 3 on one side and 4 on the other. These are kind of dirty, and the mounts are all rusted, so I'm gonna clean them up. Clean them up with a Scotch-Brite pad, and I'll spray a little aerosol bed liner on them, make them look halfway decent. Not too concerned with the outsides being dirty right now because the whole Jeep is dirty. But these things I'll clean up and make them look halfway decent. So that when we put them in, they don't look crappy. These side steps go into a factory hole on the chassis rail. There is 4 holes on the front side, 3 holes on the back side, and whether or not the Jeep came with the side steps from the factory, the holes are still there. But the ones that had the side steps have Nutserts in them, and if you're not familiar with Nutserts, those are those inserts, sort of like rivet inserts. I think they call them nut rivets or Nutserts. It might be a brand, I don't know. But what you have is a hole in a piece of metal, either a chassis rail or a piece of sheet metal, and you have this threaded insert that you put in and you crimp it in and it holds it in there. So from the factory it came with the Nutserts. My daughter's TJ didn't come from the factory with side steps, so the holes were there but the Nutserts weren't there. So I wound up buying a Nutsert kit, and it was under the recommendation of Redneck Garage on YouTube, and I put the link to his page here, but still, or here, I still can't figure out how to do that. So I'll put it in the description below, but Redneck Garage showed how the Nutserts work and the tool that he used, and even a link to Amazon where he got it at a good price. It's a great tool to have, especially if you're doing any kind of custom stuff or fabricating a bracket or anything like that. It's a nice tool to have in your garage. The only thing I would do different is the one that he recommended will only do metric Nutserts, and I do work on a lot of old stuff, and I don't really like to use metric bolts when I don't have to. So I'd like the flexibility of using both. And when I looked up after I bought it, when I looked up online the brand name, it's a Chinese tool. It seems to be made pretty well. I mean, you really gotta, the bigger the Nutsert, the more you gotta crimp down on it. And it didn't bend, didn't give. It seems to be made real well. But they do sell one that covers metric and standard thread Nutserts. And the tool is sold by itself. And then the inserts that you're going to use, you have to buy separately. So I bought a variety of metric inserts. I think I bought a 100-piece combo pack, which gave me 5 sizes, 20 of each, and that's good enough to get you started. So I put them in my daughter's frame rail. They worked real well. Mounted them up with new bolts, and they hold real nice. They're in there nice and tight. This one already has, let me show you the Nutsert tool. Comes in a blister pack case. It is the Astro Pneumatic tool company. This is model number 1427. They call it the Hand Rivet Nut Kit, and it does M5, M6, M8, M10, and M12. Yeah, I'll show it to you like that. Hopefully you can see that pretty well. It's a nice tool. It's a small compact tool. I shoved all my Nutserts in the packaging. I kept the directions, which really don't tell you anything. The only way to figure out how to use it is by using it and look at a couple videos and see if you can see people using it. Next time I use it, I'm going to record it because the directions really are kind of crappy. There are some directions online. They ain't not the greatest either. The one big suggestion is, how big do you make the hole for the Nutsert? And the best I could come up with from doing it already was just make the hole just big enough so that you could slide this in by hand, that you don't have to hammer it in, that it slides in by hand, but there's really not a lot of wiggle room. You know, like some of us say, just a C hair bigger, if you know what I mean. And that's the right size. If you just get it in, is what you have to do is you have to take the Nutsert and you're going to thread it on the tool, and then you're going to slide the tool in and get it in there nice and tight and flush, and then you're going to have it open when you slide it in, and then you're going to pull it in and it's going to start to crimp, and it crimps up on the back side and it holds it in there nice and tight. It does take some muscle, and the bigger the Nutsert, the more effort you got to put into it. And that's what I mean by this thing wasn't bending. I put in some M12s, I think. No, they were M8, M8s from the factory, and On my daughter's frame rail, some of those holes, the M8 was too loose, so I had to drill it out to an M10. And just like I said, just a C hair bigger than M10, and you really had to crank on it as you got it tight. And the next time I do it, I'll definitely video it because it's a pretty cool tool to have. But this is the Astro 1427. I would definitely get the one that, if I had to do it over again, I'm probably going to wind up buying another one of these that does the standard thread bolts or Nutserts. But it's a great tool to have. It's really handy, and thinking back over the years, working on my old stuff, I wish I had one of these. It would be made it a lot easier to fabricate some of the brackets that I had to make. But it's a great little tool. Packages up nice and neat. And like I said, the Nutserts you got to buy separately. But if you don't buy a whole shitload of them, you could fit, you know, the 100 that I bought, the 5 packs of 20 fit right in here. And nice little compact package. It's not something that you need handy all the time, so I'll keep it in something like this. A lot of times when I buy tools in one of these packs, I pull them out and I throw the pack away because I'm never going to use the pack. But this, being that you don't use it all the time, it's easy to store like this. And I got it right down here in my kitchen area of my garage, which I know most of you that have been around and have seen the old videos that we did 10-12 years ago in this garage. The garage didn't look like this. Right now it's a raving mess because all the stuff we've been working on, and like any car guys, I know that if you're in your garage working and you're doing a project and you're working on it every day, it just seems that tools just never get put away and stuff just starts piling up, and then all of a sudden it catches up with you, and one day you have to spend the whole day cleaning the garage. And that day's coming soon because I'm stepping over things and walking around things, and it's really going crazy. But over the winter, this past winter, what we did was we sheetrocked most of the garage, and we put these kitchen cabinets. We replaced the kitchen in the house a couple years back, and I saved the old kitchen cabinets, and I finally got them up. I'm just waiting for my backsplash to come in. Scotty Fish is making me a diamond plate backsplash, and then I can put my countertops down and mount the vise and a grinder and so forth, and I'll actually have a place to put stuff down and work. Right now I got empty cabinets with no countertops on them. So I'm going to clean these up and paint them, and I'm going to use some spray-on bed liner. I really like to use the Plasticoat brand bed liner. It sprays on really nice and easy. It's not too pricey. You get a lot out of a can, because I know that these bed liner products that are in an aerosol can, once you start using them, you pretty much don't have a long shelf life on that aerosol can. So the Plasticoat cans, they give you good coverage so that you don't have to maybe go into that second or third can when you only have a little bit left. So you get a lot in the can. The price is fairly reasonable, but they give you a real nice finish. It's not too rough and gritty where it catches everything, and it's not too smooth where it looks like you just, you know, painted regular paint and it came out all textured looking. It gives you that nice rough appearance, but yet when you're touching it with your hand, it's not overly rough where it's going to start catching on every time you wipe it with a rag or something. Gives a nice finish. So I'm going to clean these up with a Scotch-Brite pad. I'll paint them, and once they dry up, I'll be back and I'll show you the install process. Okay, I got the legs painted with that undercoating, and you could see, undercoating, it's bed liner, with the bed liner, and you could see the nice texture on there. Nothing too crazy. Nice sheen to the paint and some nice texture. The other one over here. Now we just got to get our stuff together to mount it up. Get the tools out and the bolts and the hardware and get it all mounted up. We're working under the TJ here. Hi. You have your 4 holes for the front mount, your 3 holes for the bottom mount. These are those nut serts that I was talking about. These were factory installed because this Jeep came from the factory with the side steps. And all you really got to do is just hold it up in place, get 1 or 2 started, and just tighten them all up. I got a little rust that were behind the the factory ones that were on here originally. So I'm just going to hit that quick with some. I have a can of Eastwood's chassis black. Let's see if I have it over here. It's about maybe a quarter of a can left. And being that I have it, I'll clean up the side of this rail a little bit and just shoot this real quick. This way at least some of this metal is protected. You know how TJs tend to get a lot of chassis rot and rust. And this TJ chassis is fairly clean, so I might as well just dress that up a little bit before I mount these steps. Well, I have this all painted up now. It's still a little wet, it's tacky, but I think we could get through. Got my tools and my hardware. So what I'll do is, I'll hold it up in position. I'll put one bolt on either end just to hold it in place. Just starting it out finger tight. These are M8s from the factory. So once I have them in finger tight, what I like to do, especially with the Jeeps, is I like to put a little lube on the bolts, because these things just have that rust tendency. So what I'll do is you can see it there, I'll just paint a little dab of white lithium grease, so that when they go in, they're going to have less of a tendency to rust up like everything else does on these things. Pretty much every bolt that you take on and off winds up rusting like crazy. And I'll put one in with a little lube on it. Grab my socket. And I'll just throw that one in, and I'll just snug it up so that it holds the whole thing in place. Not too tight, just so that it holds it in place so it's not flopping around. Because you might have to adjust it back and forth just a little bit when you're putting the rest of them in permanently. Then I'll pull that other, put that in finger tight. Pull this one back out. Put a little lube on it. Alright, well once they're all nice and tight, There's your running board. You don't have to align it anywhere. The holes pretty much tell it where to go, so it's going to fit level to the rocker. Looks good from underneath. A little dirty up top, but that's the way they were shipped to me. We'll wash it when we wash the vehicle. But it looks pretty good. What we got to do is bang out the other side. Well, that was some real easy stuff that we did today. You know, painting up the brackets on the running boards and just giving a quick paint on the chassis rail just to protect it. Throwing them in. I mean, it's real easy basic stuff, but if you've never done it before, you don't know how it mounts, hopefully this will help you out. The lug nut locks, those locking spline lug nuts, those weren't just regular lug nuts, those were the locking kind. I know a couple people were wondering if those splines, especially when I was talking to some of my friends, if they were just spline lug nuts, and they had sockets for spline lug nuts. And they're not just spline lug nuts, they're the ones that lock, so the splines aren't in the same spacing all the way around, because there's a key that's supposed to go over it. So if you don't have the key and you got to get them off, that worked out pretty easy. A lot easier than I expected. I expected to be a disaster there. That's about all we got for today. A couple of quick, easy things. We're starting to get a little weather in here, so I was trying to hurry up and get done before the weather started. The plastic coat bed liner looks great on everything I've used it on so far. It really looks good, and I plan on using it some more, so I will. And I'll show you. I love to paint the rubber part of the running board with that plastic coat bed liner. I'm just not sure how it would put up to that day-to-day foot traffic. And then once you paint it on and it starts coming off, or it starts wearing off, or it starts looking funky, I'm a little scared to do that. I don't know. If anybody has any ideas or thinks that should wear in fine, let me know. I'd be more than willing to give it a try. I was just a little skeptical about how it's going to wear in when your foot keeps going onto that running board. I don't use the running boards, but my wife does every time she gets in and out. Remember that tool for the Nutsert? That's a great tool. Really came in handy putting the running boards into the other TJ. Big thanks to Redneck Garage. The link is here. No, it's not here because I still can't figure out how to do it. Maybe one day I'll be able to get this thing. Click here. I can't do it right now. But the Redneck Garage videos with the Nutserts, he gave me the right tool. The tool worked great. It was a very reasonable price on that tool, buying it from Amazon. I had it in about 2 days, and I was able to slap those running boards in on that Jeep that didn't originally have the running boards that needed the Nutserts. So that's a great tool to have if you're looking to buy something, or you need that gift from the wife and she can't figure out what to get you. You could hint her in that direction. But it's a great tool. That's all we got for today. Hope you liked the video. More to come. I'm real excited about tomorrow. Hopefully I'll get something in the mail tomorrow that I've been waiting for, and I've been waiting to try it, and hopefully that'll come in. I can finally take my glasses off because I'm done working with the wrenches. You know, everything's blurry, to me at least. We'll see you tomorrow.